Good day. I'm Dr. Elna Rudolph, the President of the World Association for Sexual Health, and I'm honored to welcome you all to the final webinar in this series leading up to the highly anticipated 26th Congress of the World Association for Sexual Health, to be taking place in the beautiful city of Antalya in Turkey from 2 to 5 November this year. The theme for this year's Congress is Bridging the Gaps, Sexual Health, Rights, Justice and Pleasure for All. We have just completed the program. It has gone live on the Congress website in the last hour. Please go over to was2023.org to check out the program. But our Congress President, Professor Mehmet Sungur, will tell you more about that soon. Our journey through this webinar series, as well as my journey in my role as president of WAS, has been both enlightening and inspiring. And we've explored various aspects and facets of sexual health and its intersection with the broader issues of rights, justice, and pleasure. Today, we embark on the culmination of this series with a focus on sexual justice. I would like to emphasize that my own involvement in the field of sexual health was driven by a deep concern for the plight of women, a sexual health or a sexual justice issue, rather, of paramount importance, as you will hear in this webinar tonight. It is only fitting then that this final webinar series addresses the critical theme of sexual justice. We are privileged to have esteemed guests with us tonight, as you have seen in the invitation. And Professor Mehmet Sungur will go on to introduce our guests to you soon. I encourage you to actively engage in this webinar, to ask your questions, to foster a meaningful discussion. Please also feel free to, after the talks of all of our guests, ask any questions that you would like to ask about our conference in Antalya. I can tell you that I've attended WAS conferences since, this will be 13 years that I've been attending WAS conferences, and it is absolutely, absolutely worth it. Please join us in Antalya, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this webinar. I now introduce you to Professor Mehmet Sungur, who is the Congress President of the 26th Congress of the World Association for Sexual Health. Professor Sungur is a trained psychiatrist, and he's very, very well known in the field of CBT and in Turkey in general. He's also the president of TACBT, which is the local host organization, and of the European Federation of Sexology. And Mehmet, thank you very much for leading us in this webinar tonight.
Thanks very much, Elna. Thanks for the generous and kind introduction. First of all, I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and perhaps good night, depending on which time zone you're joining us, dear colleagues and friends. As the president of the upcoming World Association of Sexual Health Congress that will be held in Antalya between the 2nd and 5th of November, and as the president of the host association, which is the Turkish Association of Cognitive and Behavior Therapy, and also as a member of the board, the advisory board of WAS, I would like to thank you all for joining us and sharing your precious time at this webinar. And as you probably know, WAS is a global organization that aims to promote sexual health and rights and justice to all of these people without leaving anyone or any groups behind. And this aim can only be achieved by advancing science, by advancing research, and by advancing education, and also by providing good care for those who seek help for their sexual problems or for those who want to promote their sexual well-being. So based on this aim, the theme of the Congress, as Elna has told us, is chosen as Bridging the Gaps, Sexual Health, Rights, and Justice and Pleasure for All. What an important and also neglected neglected topic and also an unmet need throughout the whole world, perhaps. The Turkish Association of Cognitive Behavior Therapy and World Association of Sexual Health will deliver you a highly scientific program. And on top of that, we are hoping to also provide you with unforgettable, memorable social nights where you're likely to meet your old friends and perhaps make new ones. The Congress venue is chosen as Antalya, which is a Turkish Riviera on the Mediterranean Sea with 300 days of sunshine and amazing beaches. And the hotel that we are going to have the Congress is an all-included resort, which means that you can eat and drink as much as you like. And the resort is surrounded by historical and charming landmarks. So I don't want to go through the whole details, but you can look at the website to see what an amazing venue that we have chosen. The resort is surrounded by landmarks from Byzantine times, from Romans, such as Aspendos, Vasilis, Hadrian's Gate, and so on. So please make the most of your stay and make sure that you save some time to see these historical, magnificent places. We will be at your disposal to make your stay as pleasurable as possible. So at this point, I would like to introduce Mrs. Ceyda Düvenci, who has been a great friend to me. I would like to thank her for all her efforts to promote the World Sexual Health Day on the 4th of September this year to increase awareness in the public. And also, she has also helped me to advance the field of cognitive behavior therapy on the 7th of April, which is chosen as the World Cognitive Behavior Therapies Day. So thanks so much for helping to increase the awareness, and thank you for being my friend. Let me just briefly introduce Mrs. Ceyda Düvenci to you. She is a very popular Turkish actress who has starred in many TV serials, including the Turkish adaptation of Desperate Housewives, and also she is a presenter on TV. Not only an actress, but also a presenter. On top of her career in television and on stage, Mrs. Düvenci has been the author of a number of children's books based on her daughter Melissa's story, who was treated for cerebral palsy and who made Ceyda a real mother and a kind of very, very compassionate mom. She's extremely interested in psychology, and on top of all of her career, she's been studying, having a postgraduate training in child development department at Istanbul University. She also works on a private basis for children and parents, and the place is called Taş and Makas Atölyesi, which means stone and scissors atölye. So Ceyda, the platform is yours. Welcome and thank you for joining us. What I'm going to do is Ceyda will talk a little bit in English, and then I will get in to translate some of the Turkish into English for all of the audience. So thanks, Ceyda. Please.
Thank you for all. Thank you for inviting me such a special gathering. And hello to everybody all around the world. I'm so excited. Yes, I'm doing many things besides acting. And I have program on TV. It's like every day on TV. And I'm really a good friend of Mehmet Sungur, which makes me so proud of it. And also he's like mentor to me. I always ask him, what am I gonna do next? This is, I think, my purpose in my life. What am I gonna do next? The title is so important. I don't know what happens all around the world, but when you are a woman, this is much more important, the title. So I am so excited. So I'm not sure that I can make you understand my feelings and my thoughts about the subject. So I would like to keep going on talking in Turkish. And dear Mehmet, Sungur will translate it in English. Thank you for listening me at the beginning. So, totally, I will talk about being a woman. When you get married, everyone asks you first when you're gonna be mom, when you're gonna give birth, and how many children do you want to give birth. All of the women in Turkey just has to answer this question when she gets married. So I want to tell something about this question and the rights of the women besides such a stupid question. So I'm gonna keep on talking in Turkish. Tekrar hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Türkiye'den katılan tüm katılımcılara da teşekkür ediyorum. Böyle önemli bir konuda katıldığınız için. Ben bugün bu konuyla ilgili Türkiye'de kadın olmak ve kadın olmanın aslında seks konusundan ne kadar ayrıştırıldığı ile ilgili birkaç duygumu paylaşmak istiyorum. Bunu bir uzman olarak değil, bir kadın olarak hem bir oyuncu hem bir sunucu hem de bu konularla ilgili artık hani psikolojik olarak da çeşitli gözlemler yapabilen bir birey olarak fikirlerimden bahsetmek istiyorum. Bir kadın evlendiğinde, bilmiyorum dünyada bu böyle mi? Ona ilk sorulan soru ne zaman anne olacaksın, kaç tane çocuk yapmayı düşünüyorsun oluyor. Ama hiçbir zaman çocuk yapacağı biçimdeki kadının hazzı, yani partneriyle birlikte olduğunda, yani kelimeden imtina ederek söylediğimiz şu sevişmek meselesi. Bir kadın partneriyle seviştiğinde orgazm oluyor mu? Bedenine hakim mi? Bedenini dinliyor mu? İstemediğinde hayır deme lüksüne sahip mi? Gerçekten her birlikteliğinde partneriyle isteyerek birlikte oluyor ve bu orgazmla sonuçlanıyor mu? Gibi birçok asıl önemli olan konuları konuşmak yerine bu süreci atlayıp ne zaman anne olacaksın sorusunun bu kadar kolay sorulması ve kadının buna cevap vermek zorunda olması ya da her evlenen kadının anne olmak zorundaymış gibi toplum tarafından yönlendirilmesi bu sorularla benim birazcık zoruma gidiyor. Şimdi burada küçük bir es veriyorum Mehmet Bey'in çevirebilmesi için.
Okay, I'll try to translate. First of all, Ceyda started by thanking all of you to join on such an important topic. And thanks to all of the people who come from different parts of the world to join us on this seminar. And she also thanked the Turkish audience who have been interested in such an important and vital issue. And she said that she is likely to talk about being a woman in Turkey, which itself is a very important and very neglected topic. And she will talk about being a woman in Turkey, both as a woman and as an actress. And on top of that, being a human being. When a woman marries, the first question that she has been asked is, when are you going to be a mom? How many children you're hoping to have? But nobody asks if these women have the luxury to say no to offers of sex without their consent. Nobody talks about sexual pleasure. Nobody talks about whether they get orgasmic or not. So this question carries on. And instead of these questions to be asked in order to understand women's consent, women's wishes, they're generally asked about the role of being a mom.
Bu noktada da tabii insan şöyle şeyleri düşünüyor. Biz kız çocuklarımızı ne kadar doğru yetiştiriyoruz? Orada mesele kız çocuklarının regle olmasıyla birlikte aslında başlıyor. Regle olan bir kız çocuğu ben regle oldum demek yerine hasta oldum demeyi tercih ediyor. Regle olan bir kız çocuğu utanmayı tercih ediyor. Regle olan bir kız çocuğunun ailesi kızının regle olduğunu aile bireylerine söylemekten imtina ediyor. Dolayısıyla bir kız çocuğu önce bedenindeki aslında çok normal olan gelişimsel değişikliklerini saklamayı ve bedeninden utanmayı öğreniyor. Regle olduğunda en ihtiyaç duyduğu pedini siyah bir torbanın içinde marketten taşımayı öğreniyor. Ya da ped isterken sesini kısarak konuşmayı öğreniyor. Ve utanıyor. kadın olmaktan utanıyor. Bu bilinç altında istemeden gerçekleşen bir toplumsal etiket aslında ve bir öğreti. Ve bir genç kız, ben regle oldum, regle olduğumda duygu durumum değişebilir, lütfen beni anlayışla karşılayın deme özgürlüğüne sahip olduğunun farkında olmadan büyüyor. Ya da iş hayatında yanında çalışan erkek iş arkadaşından, ya çekmecende ped var mıdır acaba, olma ihtimali var mı, ben evde unutmuşum da diyemiyor. Çünkü bu çok büyük bir ayıp, denmez, denemez. Böyle büyüyen bir kız çocuğu bedenine barışık büyümüyor. Bedenine barışık büyümeyen kız çocuğu bedeninin istemediği, arzulamadığı şeylere hayır demeyi bilmiyor. Ve tabii ki küçüklükten itibaren otur amcanın kucağına, bak işte misafirler geldi, hadi öp onları tek tek gibi yönergeler yüzünden de aslında beden algısı ve beden sınırıyla ilgili herhangi bir bilgi yüklenmemiş oluyor. Dolayısıyla da ileride hayatında bir partneri olduğunda yönergesinin ne olduğunun bir önemi yok. Bir kadın kadına da aşık olduğunda, bir kadın erkeğe de aşık olduğunda karşı tarafı mutlu etmek, karşı tarafı tatmin etmek, ona işte hayır dememek, onu kırmamak üzerine bir ilişki biçimi oluşturuyor. Ondan sonra da işte konunun başına dönüyoruz tekrar. Evlendiğinde mutlu musun, keyifli misin, haz alıyor musun gibi en azından yakın arkadaşlarıyla bile bunu konuşamazken hiç tanımadığı biri bile ona rahatlıkla seks sonucu oluşan hamilelik sürecini sorabiliyor. Benim için bir birey olarak burası hep çok karmaşık geliyor ve buraya hep bir isyanım var.
When does this problem start? Problem starts when we bring up our children, especially the young girls. When we bring them up, we giving girls no information about the menstruation period. So when they first have the menstruation, they have difficulty to express that. They do not know how to talk about it. They hide it. They become embarrassed of their menstruation, and she can't ask for pets. She can't go and ask for pets because she thinks that is embarrassing. And to be in peace with their body and bodily parts becomes a major question for them. And they have the difficulty to keep boundaries between themselves and the others. They have to hide their feelings. They have to hide what they are and what they need really in terms of their sexuality. So they are expected to make their partners happy, but nobody asks them whether they are themselves happy or not. And this makes me kind of protest to what happens in Turkey. Everybody only asks about children, about her pregnancy, but nobody asks what happens before the pregnancy and about becoming, kind of embracing their own body, embracing their gender and their sexuality.
Uzun süredir psikoloji üzerine çeşitli eğitimler alıyorum. Çünkü taş, kağıt, makas atölyesinin kurucusuyum. Bu atölyede çocuklarla ve ebeveynlerle çalışıyoruz biz. Duygular üzerine, beden algısı üzerine çalışıyoruz. Ve bu atölye programının içeriğini oluşturanlardan biri olduğum için çocuk gelişimi okumanın yanı sıra çeşitli psikolojik eğitimler alıyorum. Ve bu eğitimlerde mesela kendinize yolculuğunuz çok önemli. Kendi psikolojik sorunlarınızın üzerinden geçmiş olmak, bir yaralarınıza bakmak önemli. Ve orada alternatif eğitim ve bakış açılarında İlk sorulan soru, seni annen baban isteyerek mi dünyaya getirdi? Sen aşk çocuğu musun? Çünkü aldığım eğitimlerde, özellikle bir eğitimde, Recall Healing eğitiminde özellikle diyor ki annenizin babanızın birbirini seviyor olması, aşk çocuğu oluyor olmanız çok önemli. Bu ne demek? Aşk çocuğu olmaktan kasıt ben şunu anlıyorum. Anne ile baba çocuğu için seviştiğinde ya da farkında olmadan seviştiği herhangi bir sevişme anında çok büyük bir haz almış olmalılar. Birbirlerini aşkla istemiş olmalılar. O anda istemeyerek katılım sağlayan biri olmamış olmalı çiftlerden. Dolayısıyla o zaman biz aşk çocuğu olabiliyoruz. Ve ben ne yazık ki bizim ülkemizde bu anlamda çok aşk çocuğu olduğunu düşünmüyorum. Çünkü kadınların bu noktadaki hazzı, mutluluğu, istekleri çok önemli değil. Dolayısıyla galiba en çok sormamız gereken soru bu. Belki biz aşk çocuğu değiliz ama birer aşk çocuğu doğurmaya niyetli miyiz? Bedenimize ne kadar hakimiz? Gerçek yönelimlerimizin peşinde miyiz? Yoksa toplum ne derse diye düşünüp bir sürü arzumuzu, isteğimizi bastırıyor muyuz? Hayır demeyi biliyor muyuz? Haz noktalarımızı biliyor muyuz? Partnerimize birlikteliğimiz süresince orama dokunma, ben oradan hoşlanmıyorum, bana böyle davranırsan daha hoşuma gidebilir gibi yönergeler veriyor muyuz kendi bedenimiz üzerinden ve bunlar üzerine çalışıyor muyuz ya da kendimizi dinliyor muyuz? Galiba ben bu oturuma ve söyleşiye bunları size hatırlatmak için geldim. Bunları söylemek istedim ve bana bu fırsatı verdiğiniz için de teşekkür ederim.
Thanks, Ceyda. What a great talk. Ceyda finally talked about her private experience with children and with parents, as she's working on an atelier that is very much involved with people's upbringing by their parents, and therefore she is very much interested in educating the young ladies. When she questions herself, she just tries to ask to herself and to others if this young lady or this young person, whoever, is a love child or not. And what she means by love child is if this child's or if this young man or young mom's father and mom, when they make love, do they make it with pleasure or do they just make it for conceiving children? So she says there are lots of women who suffer from having sexual kind of interactions for non-sexual reasons, not because they really like sex, but they have to make sex. So we have to question ourselves and find out if we are the result of love or if we are just born by chance. And I think if you are children of love, you're likely to grow bigger and grow more mature with love and be able to offer love. And so she says that we may not all be children of love, but we can bring up children of love by making good relationships with our partners. And we need to learn how to communicate better in terms of sexual issues, how to take pleasure, and how to raise our children in such a way that they can learn that love for pleasure and, sex for pleasure, sex for sexual reasons, not sex for non-sexual reasons, not because they have to do it, just because they want to do it. And they need to have better communication, and we need to have better education in order to achieve these goals. And she thanks everybody for listening to her. Thanks, Ceyda, for this wonderful talk.
I thank you very much. And as a final, if I can make it, I just try to tell it in English. Please listen to your bodies. You're so unique and you just live your life once. Just listen your bodies and find out what you really like to have on your body. If you can listen your body, you're gonna have really magical journey with your body. And when you find out your magical points, you can describe yourself magically to your partner. It's no matter you love directly a man or a woman, your partner. If you tell your whole body and all your needs to your partner, it will be much more with love, fun, and orgasm. Don't die without having an orgasm. It's important.
Thanks a lot. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ceyda, for this brilliant talk. And I think it shows us where we should go in terms of sex. Sex for non-sexual reasons have been an issue for all of us, especially for us and for those who are involved in the area of sexual pleasure. And also you're talking about rights, which is also part of this communication today, and justice, because children who are males and females are not brought up in the same way. And women are asked to make other people happy rather than making themselves happy. So you're bringing up an issue which is a global problem and which needs to be addressed globally. But unfortunately, we have a long way to go. Thank you so much. But it's a good start. Let's put it that way. Now I'm going to present you Esther Corona, whom I respect highly and who has been, since I met her, become a kind of role model for many of the young people who are coming from behind, and doesn't need any introduction at all, but let me just briefly introduce Esther to you. She's trained as a clinical psychologist. She has worked in sexuality education, sexual and reproductive health and gender for more than 50 years. I'm sorry to tell that, 50 years. Esther, you seem 60, so you started at 10 years old, I guess. And she is the founder and president of the Mexican Association for Sexuality Education. She's also the past vice president of the World Association for Sexual Health, and she's currently the chair of the International Liaison Committee and co-chair of the Governance and Education Committees. She is also an independent consultant for UNESCO, WHO, and other United Nations agencies, as well as international and national NGOs. So the platform is yours, Esther. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mehmet, for the introduction. And thank you very much. I'm also very excited, as usual, when we have these WAS webinars, because we have such a marvelous audience from all over the world, which gives so much of a meaning for the World Association for Sexual Health, for how we are reaching out into precisely this global, becoming this global organization that we want to cover all over the world. And having said this, and precisely because I'm in charge of international relations, I keep sort of monitoring what has been going on and I have been doing it for many years, as Mehmet said, now nearly 60 years. So it's a long time, and it has given me some perspective of what goes on in this field of sexual health, sexual rights, etc. And let me say that we are working, and in this Congress, we are focusing on sexual justice. And this is not exactly a new concept. It has been shaping itself over many years, as also as the whole concept of sexuality has been changed and how it has evolved over the years. However, now, and speaking about context, it seems that there's a consensus in many organizations that sexual justice is a way of thinking about sexuality as a political issue. This is not new. We must remember that in the past century, we had Foucault, and we had, even into this century, Jeffrey Weeks and many other thinkers precisely linking and seeing the political dimension and in sexuality. It is a way, it is concerned in the ways in which sexuality is regulated and governed within a particular political community. However, I would say that conversely, sexual justice is a concept which introduces a sexuality framework with the kind of definitions that we have been working over this century, particularly in a social justice framework. So we are evolving. This is an evolving concept. We will discuss it in the Congress, and we will try to find consensus about what we are talking about to build this common language, as we have done with words sexuality, sexual health over the years. There are tensions. How sexual justice is different from sexual justice. Some people, some thinkers would argue that rights pertain to the individual and justice is more related to the collective. And this is very important to discuss, because we should, although coming from the individual, look into the collective as we look into collective issues such as the rights of indigenous people, migrants, etc. Do not forget that we are looking into the rights of individual, and that in many cases, the Declaration of Human Rights pertains much more to the individual, to the collective. Some key themes have emerged over the years in the literature, because by now there's a growing scientific field in science in sexual justice. Of course, the relationship between sexuality and citizenship, again, this is a contested field where we have to work what we mean by citizenship. In some countries, it has a special meaning. In others, a different one. How are we going to reconcile these views? The role of state in regulating sexuality, and there is no doubt that states regulate sexuality, and that it has become over the years a major area. And we are finding that sexuality plays now it plays a role, as you can see in electoral platforms in many countries, as you can see, for instance, in Spain, how it has become such thing as consent has become such a political issue, and which ways sexuality is used to construct and conform social hierarchies. Over the years, many organizations have been involved and are talking about sexual justice. Other institutions like the International Planned Parenthood Federation. And I'm going to mention names, not because there are many others, but because sometimes the name gives you a clue of the focus or why these groups are interested in sexual justice. A newer organization called Voz Feminista takes precisely into account the role that women's movements and feminism has shaped all the concepts in sexual justice. And let me say that this group includes sexual justice in its mission definition. Other, like the Youth Coalition for Sexual and Reproductive Rights, bring together this new constituency, which is youth, these new stakeholders, which are playing an incredible role, and which are sometimes have a clearer sense of what we're talking about. The Center for Reproductive Rights, and here we have again this tension between what are reproductive justice, sexual justice, how we merge these together, are they conflated or not? The Sexual Rights Initiative and Advocates for Youth. Recently, the United Nations have gone right into the field and been hers to the Cairo conference of what is the International Conference on Population and Development, held in 1994. It has developed and it has had several reviews. And a few years ago, in 2019, a very important conference was held 25 years after Cairo in Nairobi, and a series of commitments were made to push forward the Cairo agenda, because even 25 years ago, these were developed, they are not fully realized. And I'm going to quote directly from some of the publications, because this, the United Nations Population Fund, with UNIFEM and other agencies, set up this high-level commission on the Nairobi summit in ICPD 25 follow-up. A very long title, but what it means is that it's something that keeps watch and monitors what's happening all over the world in, this is their particular field, sexual health, and of course, sexual and reproductive health, let me say, and of course, sexual and reproductive rights, so that even a new concept has emerged in when these things are discussed. Whereas in the past century, only reproductive health was talked about, now we have a clearer, sometimes I would say, a bit confusing way in which links sexual and reproductive health and rights. I like to say reproductive rights and sexual rights. And I don't want to discuss at this point which takes precedence. I have my own point of view, but I mean, right now I'm going to convey what United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, says about this through this commission that has produced now 3 very important reports. In the 2021 reports, it was called No Exceptions, No Exclusions, Realizing Sexual and Reproductive Health, Rights and Justice. Here, I think that for the first time, at least in my experience, comes the word justice. And they say putting health and rights under a justice framework goes beyond describing rights to actively achieving them, including through systematically and monitoring disparities. And of course, we come into the field of inequalities because this is exactly where justice tries to solve these inequalities rising in the world. Right now, we have, as has been just mentioned by Ceyda, in many countries, these problems about what are rights, particularly of women, how can they be expressed and how they cannot be fulfilled at all. And then just to mention data based on the data of 57 countries, only 55% of women make their own decisions on 3 issues central to reproductive and sexual health and rights: bodily autonomy, sexual intercourse, contraceptive use, and access to healthcare. Then in 2022, the new report was very much concerned about the link, about the rise in authoritarianism, far-right rhetoric, and populist movements, and compounded at that time by the war in Ukraine, by the many conflicts all over the world, and of course, by the COVID pandemic. Climate change is driving disasters and forcing migration and displacement all over the world. And we had many, many natural disasters, such as drought, flooding, other related events. And one thing which was mentioned there, it's the fact that sexual and reproductive justice is a universal concept. It's not something that it's only related to certain set of countries, maybe Western countries, as has been claimed sometimes. But it pertains the right to have or not children, to parents want children in safe and sustainable environments, and the right to choose sexual autonomy and gender and freedom, and in many cases, when and how to choose a partner, even marriage. And again, and also there is the point of bringing the intersectional quality of justice, saying how such dimensions as and oppressions such as ethnicity, class, gender, ability, age, and migration or refugee status play into this, not in a single way, not in a linear way, but intersecting with each other. Finally, recently, very recently, 2 weeks ago, the 3rd report was submitted by this commission, and again, there was a great concern about the regressive forces that are not just preventing progress for humanity, but rolling it back altogether. Half of the world democracies are in decline. Measures of human development have retreated for 2 years in a row for the first time. So it's really something that also has to do with growing nationalism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, anti-feminism, and also this is a driver that is reversing the improvement of health, gender, and other forms of equal justice. And I'm quoting directly. So they made a call for justice as a unifying unifying force. And here is where we tie, and I won't discuss much because my colleague Alain Giami will talk a lot about how WAS is conceiving sexual justice. But this is precisely, if you see an organization like the United Nations, which has influences all over the world, and how we are also joining forces in this dimension and building alliances. This is the context in which we are now walking into this new sexual justice initiative as an inheritance, I would say, from all our work of more than 40 years and was in precisely bringing together, bringing to the world and focusing into sexual rights, and now deriving into this broader concept of sexual justice. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. This, again, your talk, every time I listen to it, I always hear not only information, but knowledge and perhaps wisdom. Esther, thank you for that. I think the most important issue that you brought up is that you said nothing is new. So there's nothing which has not been said before us. So in that sense, I think it is very important that we talk about lots of issues, but we do nothing for it, or perhaps do less than what we are supposed to do. So when you say define sexual justice as a systematic way of achieving sexual rights, I think that's a wonderful way of putting it. So you're acting on it, you're not only talking about it. So instead of making talks and making it blow in the wind, it's best to do some practice, to do our best for future. So thanks very much for giving us an information about these concepts, and also for giving a kind of promise for the Congress in order to build up a consensus on sexual rights and sexual justice. Perhaps we can talk further about these issues when we are in Antalya all together. Thanks so much. So the next speaker, very difficult to really define him because, there's kind of emotional, and Esther Corona has been doing this job for more than 50 years. And me and Alain, we have been friends over decades, which shows our ages. And I call him the wise man, and he has the experience. But let me briefly, I'm so happy to introduce you, not as a researcher or a scientist or a clinician or a philosopher, but first of all, as a good friend of mine. Thank you for being my friend, Alain. Alain is currently an emeritus research professor at the National Institute of Health and Medical Research in Paris. He's currently the vice president of the World Association of Sexual Health and an associate editor of the journal called Sexologies, a European journal of sexology and sexual health. He served as a full member at the International Academy of Sex Research since 1994, and also is an expert in various task forces at the World Health Organization, UNESCO, the French Supreme Court, and the French Ministry of Health. He's currently coordinating an international network on health and citizenship among trans persons in different countries. He's published several books, including Histories and Sexology, Between Science and Politics, which is very important, and Sexual Revolutions. So thanks for all your efforts, and the platform is yours, Alain.
Thank you, Mehmet. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Elna. Thank you, Ceyda. Thank you, everybody, who is taking Michelle and Lisa, who are taking care of this session. It will be very difficult for me to speak after the passion that was being demonstrated by Esther, my friend Esther Corona. And since, I will try to develop some ideas, because in the world in which we live, it's important to know, to try to clarify what we are speaking about and why we are speaking about those things. And it is important to clarify the words, the words that we use. So I'm using a PowerPoint presentation to help me. Yes, voilà. I hope it's fine. Yes, so there is a challenge, because as Esther Corona says, sexual justice is a new political development in the strategy organization. It is part of a big movement of change of the World Association for Sexual Health, which was until 2005 the World Association for Sexology. So it is another evolution of the WAS from a simple professional organization defending the rights and the training and the ethics of a medical profession mainly, and educators, to, I would say, a political organization trying to use sexology to make the world better. And one of the reasons of why the world is not as good as we would like it to be is a question of inequality, it's a question of oppression, it's a discrimination, and it is a lack of justice. So, and also the lack of justice in access to help, support, and care in sexual health, sexual and reproductive health, and sexology. So this is, the DNA of WAS. We can consider the development of sexual justice as a political project which is based on science information, facts, and scientific knowledge. But as it was the case in the beginning of sexology in the 19th century Germany, and especially I want to give a tribute to Magnus Hirschfeld, the question was that developing scientific knowledge about sexuality and sexual health was a way of taking part to an emancipatory process. So as we can say, nothing new, as Mehmet would say, nothing new under the sun, and under the moon. At some point, we need to develop the reason why we develop scientific and knowledge and information is to help social emancipation of the people. So we have whether we want it or not, we have a political mission as WAS in order to try to reduce the system of inequality. And for doing that, we are trying to establishing, and the Congress will be the focus point, to develop partnership in order to get informed of the too many situations of inequality and injustice, and to establish new partnership in order to see where do we have to fight, where do we have to struggle in order to make justice coming into the world. We need also to, and I speak from the point of view of a man, of a white man, but I am not completely a white man, since even if it is not visible, I come from North Africa origin, So it's important to disentangle the posture of the global North, and to get, to give voice, as the French Caribbean psychiatrist Frantz Fanon would say, to give voice to the wretched of the earth, which is one of the important dimension of sexual justice. So, as Esther Corona spoke before, we have already so many concepts We have sexual justice, we have sexual rights and human rights, we have social justice, we have sexual and reproductive rights and justice, we have gender rights and justice, we also have now erotic justice. So we have so many concepts already. And why do we need another concept, sexual justice, in a world which is already overloaded for that? And I would emphasize and try to say in my own words what has been said before. We need sexual justice in a world where there are sexual rights, but the problem with sexual rights, whether they exist and are recognized by major organizations of the United Nations Galaxy, such as the WHO, UNFPA, ICPD, etc., they are recognized, but they are not applied, they are not promoted, and they are not respected. So one idea about sexual justice is to make the situation, the existing situation, better by promoting and trying to fight the obstacles to the accomplishment of the sexual rights system. But it's not only, sexual justice is not only a defensive position, it's also a positive, propositive force movement. We need to create new rights to be implemented and to be developed and to be equally disseminated among the world, and in particular among those who are the more discriminated, oppressed, and violent. So we try to open this multidimensional dimension about the benefits of developing a sexual justice framework. So what would be the pillars, the conceptual, ideological, theoretical, call that whatever you want. I think one of the ideas is to speak about human dignity. Human dignity is very important. It was in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, so that every human being is born equally in rights and dignity. So dignity is the respect of dignity, is the respect of the essential characteristic dimension of every person. Every person counts as a person. Every person matters as a person. And we should not tolerate any sacrifice for even a single person, because each life, whatever the color of the life, matters. And in particular, those lives who are more discriminated than others. Another aspect is personal autonomy. We speak now also of self-determination. Personal autonomy and self-determination are very important concepts because they should give the right, the possibility, not only the right, because we have this right, but to give the people the possibility to understand what is their identity, what do they want in the world, and to decide what is good for them, not let someone else decide what is good for them. And Ceyda spoke in a wonderful way of that, about the situation of women in Turkey, but it's not only in Turkey, it's also in the United States. And speaking about justice, we cannot oppose the North and the South, the developed and the underdeveloped, the emerging and the emerged. It's unfortunately the situation. We live under the reign of injustice, and unfortunately, no country is a country where we have justice, and we have to fight, even if the injustice situation are more tolerable when we are privileged in some situation, and we are as privileged, we can accept, more easily situation of injustice. The notion of citizenship, which is, in my view, central in the question of justice, social justice, sexual justice is central, because of course we know that citizenship is a concept related to the state, to the nation state, but we know that some people do not have access to citizenship, and we speak in this particular point, from someone living on the borders of the Mediterranean Sea. We speak about those millions of migrants who are arriving in Western Europe and who are denied the rights of full citizenship. So even if those people don't want or have no need to become, and some want to become citizen of the European Union, even of that, those people need to have full access, equal access to the rights that are granted to citizens. But it's not only those coming from far away who are deprived of the full rights related to citizenship. Inside the world, inside democracy, we have people who are full citizens, who have an identity card, who have a passport, and who are denied the rights that all citizens should have. And we speak about the right to marry, to get the right to express their own sexual orientation. And this is not only for gay and lesbian and trans people, it's also for people living, in mental hospitals, people living with disabilities, old people living in houses for old people. Those people, they lose their citizenship, they lose the right to decide for their own life, and their life are decided by the directors, I would say, and the system that runs those institutions that deprives them for their own functioning, the right of function. But when we speak of rights, we speak also of responsibility. If you are a citizen, you are responsible of yourself, and you belong to a community, which responsibility brings the idea of solidarity. Being free and by self doesn't mean nothing if you are not in a situation of solidarity with the other. Priority for the poor and vulnerable, I just spoke about that, and peace. We know at the moment in Europe and in other countries, we live in a situation of war, whether it is open or it is hidden, but we are in a situation of war, and this makes justice situation even more difficult. I mean, the maintenance of justice is even more difficult in situation of wars, with the restriction of liberties and freedom. So we had established the preliminary working definition, but I can say to you immediately that this definition will not remain. But we need, I submit it to you because we need your input. You need your criticism. You need to have your view, your perspective. The idea would be to develop an intersectional approach, primarily focused on governance and healthcare and citizenship, in order to reduce the important inequalities that affect the most underprivileged populations and individuals, marginalized and stigmatized in terms of social class, gender identities, sexual orientation, diverse relationship structure, race, ethnicity, migration status, age, and disabilities, among others. So we have different perspectives here. One is we have to do with the reduction of human and citizenship rights. The other, so sexual justice has to do with reestablishing, restoring people in their full citizenship as a tool, at some point, as a tool to facilitate access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, which is important. It's not only a question of health. Sexuality appears to be the keystone of political issues, personal issues, and identities. And then we have the question of access to health care, and in particular, sexual and reproductive and gender care, from whom we know that in many countries, the social security system, the insurance system are among the most unequal system widespread in society. So in order to open and to go beyond also to what Esther Corona just said before, sexual justice is not isolated. It's not isolated. It has to be taken in a context of climate. We know the climate crisis, the change in temperature, the rain that is coming, the heat, the cold, the glacier, from the North Pole that are defreezing, and the winter in summer and the summer in winter, that the Earth is becoming crazy. So we have necessity to develop a kind of climate approach based on ideas of justice. Racial justice, we don't like, some of us don't like the word racial, because we don't believe that there are many races. We believe in only one race, the human race, as Albert Einstein would declare when he arrived in exile in the United States of America. He was asked his race, and he said human race. So we are all women. We are all women, yes. This is a good lapsus. And we are all women, human, and it is important to remember that. But races are invented at some point. Races are invented and become the argument, the pretext of inequalities, of hierarchization of human beings. So it is important to use at the opposite this notion of race, but at the same time, we run the risk to emphasize race issues. So these issues are complex. Health justice, I spoke about it. It's not only access to care, it's to develop good conditions of life related to climate, related to pollution, related to work, people working in factories, in what state of health they are. And we know, I made some studies about that in Argentina a few years ago. We know that the people who work in the field, when they use the sulfur to facilitate the growth of the plants, they lose their reproductive capacities. So it's a question of work, environment, and justice at work. And finally, one of the most important, in my view, is economic injustice. The fact that so many people live without the minimum possibility, economic possibility, to be able to have a decent life. So there are a lot of work to do. We need to facilitate access to citizenship rights to people who are excluded, to facilitate access and reproductive health care, transforming, and since WAS is an organization of professionals, we need to transform discriminatory attitudes from the health professionals themselves. We need to educate themselves to accept diversities in their work and to give the support and the care, the positivity that those people deserve. We need to transform attitudes related to the denial of sexuality for people with intellectual disabilities, older adults, people with chronic illnesses, and other populations who are denied the very existence of erotic capabilities and access to a safe and satisfying sexual life. I cannot, prevent myself of quoting again Ceyda when she said, when a woman marries, the first question is, when do we have a baby? It's not, when was your last orgasm? So it is this kind of denial of the erotic capacity of people, which is important to maintain and to protect. So we have a work in progress. We are working on a draft definition to be discussed during the consultation, and I really strongly invite you to register, to participate the Sexual Justice Initiative consultation that will take place on the November 2 in Antalya in the morning from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock on the first day of the Congress. And you will have the opportunity to give your view, your perspective on the development of sexual justice. This draft document that will be elaborated and finalized during the consultation needs to be approved by the advisory committee and the WAS General Assembly, but it is clear that this draft declaration will be a draft, and it is the beginning of a technical work to finally end with the full sexual justice declaration by 2024. So thank you for listening. I hope to meet you within a couple of weeks now in Antalya and discuss with all of you about the question of sexual justice. Thank you.
Thanks, Alain, for emphasizing the significance of growing in diversity and also for emphasizing the benefits of developing a sexual justice framework. And also, I think you mentioned about a very important concept, which is human dignity and respect and being compassionate. In my understanding, being compassionate is being aware of human pain and suffering, and not only about being aware of it, but also having the effort or having to work on taking responsibility to reduce human pain and suffering. So I think this is a very important issue. On the other hand, as you said, there's nothing new under the sun. We have to keep in mind that given time, every theory proves to be wrong, because as time goes by, the needs change and all these definitions change. So we're always living in a world where science is evolving, human rights are hopefully evolving, and so on. So we need to keep in mind that we have to be aware of all these facts, and I hope that we will be able to discuss more about it during our Congress. So at this stage, I would like to thank all of the people, our wonderful president, who has been working very, very hard to organize this Congress, Elna. And first of all, you have been working on your emails and lots of other things over long hours in every day. So congratulations for that. We are all working on it. And thanks to both of you, Esther, Alain, Giami, and also all of the other people, Shell, and I think we are going to have the chance to talk about all of these issues more thoroughly during our Congress. At this point, can we take some questions, please? And who wants to? I mean, there are some questions, I guess. I can't see it, but if there's anyone who can see it, who wants to do that? If there are any questions to be answered. I guess there's a question which I can see in here. And one of the questions is, why is there silence in the World Congresses of Sexology about orgasmic childbirth or orgasms in childbirth, as it has been reported by some sexologists? Any questions, any answers? Who wants to give an answer for that? Have we been silent about this issue, or haven't we been heard about this issue? Well, there are lots of issues like persistent arousal syndrome, which happens not only around the childbirth. Let me answer that as much as I can. Unwanted orgasms and so on. And it's a very important issue. And whoever, I already asked somebody saying, why is please answer my question. Of course, I'm asking that question at the moment. We are not silent about it, but I hope even if you are silent about it, you can bring up this issue by presenting at our Congress in Antalya. You can make our voice heard. But as I said, it is not orgasms only around the childbirth, but there are many unwanted orgasms in women, and which is called persistent genital arousal. Now they have changed the name, but this issue is a very important issue, and I think it needs to be discussed further. But today, our topic is mainly about sexual justice and rights. So If there are no other comments, let's take another question or any remarks about all of the talks that have been given in this seminar, in this webinar. Any questions or any additional things that from the audience?
No, I mean, if I can say something about the question of orgasm at childbirth, this is a very taboo subject because especially in the Western world, because there is such a separation between maternity and female sexuality and pleasure that it is almost forbidden to think of giving birth, giving light. In some people, in some countries, they speak of giving light, not only giving birth, and it is almost, and we know that in many situations, gynecology is totally different from including sexual and erotic dimension of reproduction. So this is something, it is important that we speak about that, but maybe we need to also to have in mind that sometimes it's better to keep some stuff secret, because it's not because we speak of everything that everything will be accepted and tolerated. Sometimes, in French we say, if we want to be free, we have to live hidden. So we need to find the balance between speaking in a loud voice of the different taboo and the different oppressions that we have and women have. But at the same point, we need to think about maybe it's better to keep some secrets.
Well, as long as we talk about it, it's not a secret anymore, Ellen. So we started talking about it, and I don't think you believe in secrecy. And of course, you are bringing up an issue which is a taboo. So when people say they're having orgasms, when they're giving childbirth, I think that is not easy to understand for the public. So we need to talk more about it instead of keeping it secret. We need to address all these issues, and we need to really show or make people understand that orgasms are not only the results of pleasure, but it comes sometimes spontaneously, unwantedly, and it's difficult to talk about it. So I agree that it's a taboo subject, but we have to penetrate the taboo, and we should be able to talk more about this issue as well. And I hope that we can do it in the future during our Congress and so on. Yes, Esther, please.
Yes, I'd like to address a question by our dear colleague Anne Philippot. There is much debate about whether sexual pleasure is a right to be honored or becomes present once sexual justice is achieved or sexual rights are honored. What do the panel think, and where do they think the sexual pleasure declaration of WAS and sexual justice framework will intersect? I think this is a very important question, and maybe it relates to what has just been said about, in this case, female sexuality and pleasure. But how they will intersect, there is a clear intersection, but there is a lot of debate precisely, whereas we need to first achieve sexual rights and sexual justice before addressing sexual pleasure. And I think this stems from the view that sexual pleasure is a luxury. Why do we think that poor women, and I'm talking particularly about women, migrant women, trans women, etc., are not entitled to sexual pleasure, and even in religious backgrounds? Why? Precisely because there is this view, this separation, and this in a case view that pleasure is wrong. And let me say that sometimes also a political view, in terms that first we have to solve all economic inequalities and then address other pleasures in life. And I think this is wrong. I think that we really have to think about it, and we really have to bring the possibility, maybe not the reality at this stage, but at least the possibility and the fact that this is something that can be achieved, that pleasure in life is not something which is can be denied to people in whatever condition they are, in whatever situation of inequality they are. But I mean, this is very much a point of something that has to be debated and something that has to be worked on, because I don't think there will be a single view, because it depends very much on where do you start, what is your starting point, maybe even a political starting point of view. But I think it's very good that the question is being asked, and I hope that Anne will be in Antalya, because she has worked so much on pleasure that will give us a lot of insights on the question. Over.
Yeah, pain and pleasure are very important issues to be addressed. And I think it's not only pleasure, but it's also pain as well. Every feeling is information. It gives us information about our needs. So I think we need to care, not only about feeling the good, but about feeling everything. So every feeling gives us information about our needs, about other people's needs. So I don't think there's any negative or positive emotion. Emotion is emotion. So it is different from to be pain, to have pleasure. I think pain is inevitable, but living a life that is worth pain and suffering is the most important thing. So any other comments or any other issues to be held? I guess there's Ceyda and Elna. Do you want to say anything before I conclude the session?
Thank you for everything. Also, there was a comment about me, which one of the participants from Iran wrote. If I can find, I'm gonna read it. Dear Ceyda, you said you don't know how the rest of the world is about women's rights. I wanted to say that in Iran, women are not asked these questions about their sexual desires due to cultural reasons and lack of sexual awareness. Thank you to Faranak Kadivari for sharing me the reality. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ceyda. And there are two more issues that's put on, as far as I can see. One question says, WAS needs to address the issue of male and intersex children genital cutting without medical necessity as a sexual justice imperative. Why is GBV virtually only mentioned when it comes to violence against females?
I can take that comment, Mehmet, if you want to.
Sure, please.
So I can invite our participant to Antalya and everyone else. There will be a full symposium. In fact, there are multiple sessions, particularly on that topic at our next conference. And there's a full session on genital autonomy. We invited one of the world's top experts on this topic, Professor Brian Erb from Oxford, to speak on that topic. And we will have, on top of the other sessions, a very serious roundtable discussion about this.
Exactly. We have a symposium. We have two talks about that, not only one. Elna, thank you for commenting on that, and genital mutilation and so on in different ways, and genital practices. So there will be a lot of information about that issue. And there is one more question, I guess. I'm not sure. At the upcoming conference, I'm particularly interested in how the sexual justice framework engages with different contexts at policy, societal, and individual factors levels. Thus, I hope the declaration is made as adaptable to unique contexts as possible to make it more relevant. Yes, Alain.
Yes, this is, one of the difficulties of this declaration. We have the option of giving a list of situation of oppression, exclusion, specific, but the list will never be full because there will be always something missing. But what the idea is to make a short declaration, which we would give principle of action. We don't want to dictate everyone how to practice, how to implement sexual justice, but what we want to do, our mission, is to give some principle, a few principles of action that people will adapt to the situation in which they are located. Because we don't know. We know some important situation of injustice, but we don't know all of them. And so giving a list will always exclude people who will come to say, and me, I am not in the list, and things like that. So this is, one of the challenge, and it is also a way to respond to the person who spoke about the children genital cutting, It is part, of course, it is part of the agenda, to give, to try to include this kind of practice, inside the framework of justice. But we need to be more general in order to give the possibility to each situation to develop their own perspective.
You want to make a comment, Esther?
No, there is an outstanding question, which I think is quite important. It's a question about the role of religions as organizations, as powerful structures of power. Is it even possible to answer the question, how are various religious groups reacting or proacting in the field in these years regarding, for example, sexual justice? I think that in the current situation in the world, there is very often, religions are not monolithic institutions. Within each religion, there are different views, different interpretations of their own religious standards or principles. But I must say that the anti-right movement has been linked to very conservative forces in diverse religious groups, as we see it all over the world. However, there are many faith-based organizations which have a completely different view. And for instance, I have recently read about several programs and initiatives in Africa, in some African countries, that are precisely pushing forward a progressive agenda of freedom and rights. So I think that we have to consider these groups. This is something that we cannot put aside, and we have to think that almost in all movements, political, religious, economic, there are progressive forces, alliances. And one thing that I like to think about, it's something that a very important thinker, Jeffrey Wicks, once told me. And when I asked it, I said, why do you think that we have this growing opposition to all that we have worked for many years, for freedom, for autonomy, for self-determination? And he said, look, Esther, what the strength of the forces that are against us are a measure of the progress that we have made. So I think that, to me, this is a very positive and a very enlightening way of seeing how we can push forward and move forward in our work, even though we are sometimes in difficult situations. And this is something that, again, will be addressed in Antalya in the Congress. We will be precisely working on strategies, how to work in the face of opposition or in difficult situations. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, I need to say that we are going to talk about many issues, not only about sexual issues, but about global crises in our Congress. Like my opening talk will be about how to embrace uncertainty and how to manage worry and anxiety in times of global crises. That will be my talk during the opening ceremony and so on. So we'll talk about lots of issues that has been neglected. And Alain also mentioned about the water problems, the heating problems, and so on. But this will be more about global crisis that we are all facing, which actually should have taught us that all of us touch each other's lives in different ways. So we are going to talk about lots of issues. I wish that you're all going to attend and contribute actively to all of these discussions we have. We've got 2 more questions, but nothing more because we have to finish on time. We actually have 5 more minutes. So Tim Hammond asks a question. Are we open? I'm so sorry for the other question that I neglected, and thanks very much, Esther, for bringing it up. I am not good technically, but now I have seen this 2 questions, which I'm going to put on. One is about this one, which says, are we open to exploring the fact that gender bias works in both directions, where in cases when females are harmed, their gender is highlighted, and where males are harmed, their gender is minimized? Any remarks? Referring to different attitudes for different genders, compassion, empathy, and so on. So, of course, we are open to exploring the fact that there's gender bias, but is there any comments from the speakers about this question? Gender bias has always been an issue, and we need to talk more about it, because as males and females, we are different, of course. Being equal is not being the same. We need to be open to differences, and we have to grow in diversity. We have to put our strengths. So of course we are different, but differences, people in a politically correct world never talk about gender differences. And because this is mainly because we equalize equality with being similar or being the same. We don't have to be the same or similar in order to be equal. So we need to learn, and we need to take our differences and make a whole out of it, strengthen each other by our differences. And we have to keep in mind that the peach being pink does not hurt the banana. So we have to keep in mind that we are different, we have differences, but as human beings, we have more commonalities rather than differences. So it's a matter of humanity rather than genders. But at the moment, we need to be gender positive, at least in some countries where rights of women are totally neglected. So I guess this is an issue that we can have to discuss in the Congress as well. Maybe we should think about a forum where we can talk about these issues. So I just thought that maybe a forum on this where people bring up their ideas and we can discuss. If we can insert that in our program, that would be wonderful to conclude this webinar. But I would like to thank you all. Thank you to all of the speakers, and thank you for all the audience to stay with us for such a long time, giving their opinions and so on. So we are grateful for that. And we hope that you're going to participate actively in our Congress. And please come and join us. I don't know if it's time to talk about it, but Elna, if you give me permission, I would like to say that we have the possibility of having a hybrid kind of contribution to the Congress. So we're just thinking about it. And once it happens, we'll inform all the people. So you can actually, if you don't really have no chance to come and join us, perhaps you can join online, and we are thinking about the possibility of making it a hybrid one. And as soon as we decide, we are going to put it on our website. So thanks for coming and joining us. It was a great webinar, and I think there are lots of issues to be discussed. And of course, there's a long way to go, but it's a good start. So let's make it successful. Let's not only have a pure scientific or clinical conference, but also having a friendly Congress where you can make new friends and meet your old good friends. So thanks very much for coming and joining us tonight.